Hello, and in this tutorial we're going to have a look at getting a non-player character to shoot. So this is by request, but we won't say who. Okay, so I just made everything a bit smaller, and I'm going to make a plane, and this is going to be my world. Now let me turn on my keys here so you can see what I'm doing. So all I've got here is a cube and a plane. Now, so I'm going to call this player, and I'm going to move my player over here. I'm going to duplicate it with Shift D and move that over there. So this is going to be my non-player character who's floating up in the air. So non-player character. Now there's loads of things I should do here. First of all, go to Blender Game Engine. In terms of making all this work, the only thing I'm going to do in terms of game logic to the player is give it forward motion, and that way I can show you range. So I'm going to say keyboard input, so I'm going to press the up arrow, and the actuator is going to be motion actuator. And as we look at our cube here, we want it to move positively on X, which is here, so we'll give it a 0.1, and then we'll join these two logic breaks together. So I can hit P into the game engine, and I can move forward. Okay, so that's all I need my character to achieve. Now, what I want is I want this to chase my character, and then within a certain range of my character I want it to fire. So let's go back to the character here, and we're going to give the character one more thing. I'm going to give it a property called player, and that's all lowercase. And the reason we're doing that is we need this non-player character to be able to differentiate between the player and everything else in the game, like walls and furniture. So now, before we make this guy move, let's just let's set up firing. So the first thing we want to do is we want to set up our a near sensor. So we're going to say if we're near an object that has the property player, okay, and let's say our distance is let's say 2 for now, and we'll check our distance when we test the game. What do we want it to do? Well, we want it to edit object, we want it to add an object, a bullet, which we haven't made yet. So let's go do that. Let's go Shift D, and we'll rename this object here bullet. And we're going to go Control A, apply scale, and move it M to layer 2. Now this is my non-player character, so I'm going to apply the scale to that. And then if we try and fire from the non-player character here, the bullet, which will be dynamic, will appear inside the character, which is definitely not what we want, because then we'll have a dynamic object inside a static object, and basically chaos will ensue. So we're going to make, so Shift A, we're going to make an empty. And we're going to move that empty over here beside or in front of our non-player character. And this empty is what's going to fire our bullet. So let's go back here. So let's amend this. So we're saying if I get within a certain distance of here, do something. Well, instead of firing, what we're going to do is we're going to send a message. And the message we're going to send is fire, and we're going to send it to the empty. Now, so that's fine. So now when the empty receives the message fire, so message, and we'll type in fire, we want it to add the bullet. So I'm going to go edit object, add bullet, and we'll connect the two of these, and we're going to give it a minus value on x, so we'll say minus 10. Okay, and it's going to be local. Now in this we're not going to bother rotating this, because you can put a steering brick on the non-player character and it will turn and face. We might actually do that and put a nav mesh down, but we've done that in a previous tutorial. So all we want to do really is get, when the player character gets within a certain range, that the bullet fire, or the non-player character fires. So we'll go and see if that works. One last thing we need to do is go to layer 2, and then we need to make this a dynamic object, otherwise it'll appear in the game but not go anywhere. So there's my that's its collision bounds, so we'll set its collision bounds to be set on a box, and then what we'll actually do is we'll scale it down a little bit and apply that scale. So back to layer 1, and we're going to go P, play the game, and then we're going to move forward, and nothing has happened. Aha! I see a flaw. So no, I thought I saw a flaw. So when it receives the message fire, we'll add object bullet. Okay, now we have the property player and we're moving forward, so let's extend this range here and see if that's where the problem is. So we'll give it a range of 6. Now if you look at this little button here, it says actor. It says object is detected by the near and radar sensor. So if I want an object to be detected by near or radar, for example this object here, it must be an actor. So when this is not turned on, we can press P and go as close as we like, but the radar will not detect it. So let's make this detectable by radar and by the near sensor by turning that on. Unless we press P, and that is an interesting result. So let's reduce our range back to say 2 and press P, and now we get a very different result. So let's do that again. So let's go P, and we get within range, and it fires once only, and even though we're still in range, it's not firing. So let's have a look at what's going on here. So this happens when it's true. So let's tell it to send this message every we're going to type in 60 and we'll see what we get now. So P, and I move forward, and now it's firing once per second. So let's just have a little think about what's happening there. So what we've done is we've said with the with this setting over here, the near sensor, we've said if it's true, that's what this is, if it's true, check basically, or it says skip this amount of time, which is really sort of check in this interval here. If we go over to our game settings, by default our game is set to a refresh rate of 60. So 60 is effectively 1 second. So if we wanted a fire rate of 2 seconds, we'd put in 120. So now I press P and it'll fire every 2 seconds. And we have complete control. I can go in and give it a ridiculous number like 2. So that's every 1/30th, I think, of a second, if my maths is correct. And we get loads and every other possible interval in between. So you can basically set how difficult the game is by changing this variable here. So that's how we do a rate of fire, and also how we do the non-player character firing in response to proximity of the player. And this is 9 minutes in, so I'll leave it at that. if you wanted to turn and face and follow the character, we've already done a tutorial on that, so that's enough for now. Thanks.